Today we're going to do an install of a set of Wilwood brakes on a 65 Mustang Fastback. This is a project car. As you can see, it's basically just a shelf. GT350 back there in the background. I've already installed these brakes. This is what they're going to look like when they're finished. They're 6-piston Wilwoods. The rotor is approximately 11 inches. This piece here will be mounted to the spindles. These are 65-66 GT style spindles. Some of the hardware that's going to be used as well as the pads. Just a quick look at the calipers, the rotors, and some of the parts and pieces that we're going to use in this installation. Up next is the hub assembly. We're going to be using the bolts that come with the kit. We're going to be installing them on the interior, which is the closer holes for the Ford Mustang on 5-on-4.5 bolt pattern. We're going to put these in, put a little Loctite on them, and then set them down in the wheel in order to torque them down to specs. I've installed each one of the bolts. I've put a little Loctite on them. I'm going to go ahead and run them down, and then we will put them in and torque them down. Leave the check on this. Please read the instructions, but I leave the check on this is 70 foot-pounds. As I mentioned, we'll set this down inside the wheel and use this to hold the hub in place so we can torque down the bolts. Now we're going to torque them down. I believe it is, after checking, 77 foot-pounds. We're going to install the hub to the rotor. Up next, we're going to install the rotor to the hat. This assembly will mount to the hub once it's assembled. You're going to use the beveled side, the side that's raised down. And these are also offset. So you're going to put these down. It is tricky. If you get that backwards, it's not going to work. I've learned that the hard way. I've already put Loctite on all these. Just kind of going in an offset pattern, just kind of keeps it centered up as you go. Keeps you from having to fight it. I'm going to snug them all down a little bit and then torque them down. These don't have a very high torque spec. I think it's only like 25 foot-pounds. Next, we'll torque them down. Okay, so before we proceed with mounting our hub or our rotor with our hat, I'm going to go ahead and pack the bearings. I like to do this by hand. Some people can use the tool. You can buy one at the auto parts store. Actually set the bearing down in it, and it actually squeezes the grease into the bearing, but I prefer to do it by hand. I'm going to go ahead and pack the bearing, set it in here, and then put the dust seal on it. And then once we get the seal on it, then we'll go ahead and mount the hub to the actual rotor assembly. And we'll do as we did last time. We're going to use the wheel. For the sake of construction, I'm going to go ahead and show you how I grease the bearings. I take them down like that and I push it and kind of roll it through. As you continue to do that, you'll actually see that grease start to push up through the bearing as it comes up inside. That's how you know you're getting good penetration with the grease inside your bearing, and then you work your way around. Continue that process so you have all the grease through the bearing all the way around. As you can see, I've already installed the bearing, the seal. It's all down nice and flush. I'm going to set it back down in the wheel as we did earlier so that it holds it in place. And then we'll set the rotor with the hat down. Line up the holes. Already put Loctite on the threads. And then we'll torque them down. Yeah, make sure that it's fully seated. Go ahead and snug them down. Then we'll torque them down to 45 foot-pounds. Again, please check your directions. There you go. There's your hub with the hat and the rotor all assembled with your bearing. Next, we're going to put it on the car. So we have our assembled rotor and hub assembly. I've already put some grease on the spindle, and I've already packed the small bearing. There it is, slid in. We're going to put our bearing in place. It's already been greased. Now, I have a cotter pin with the washer and the nut. Now, the actual Wilwood kit comes with its own washer. We're going to use the washer with the kit. Screw on the nut and then install the pin. Now that we have our nut on with our cover, it has the cotter pin. Everything's been tightened down to the right amount of, I guess you would call it, not really torque, but the right amount of play so that your rotor and everything turns nice and freely, and you can just put on your dust cap. That's it. Next, we'll mount the caliper back here. So as with all installations, as I was putting the pads in, realized that the pins would not go through the hole. So I had to enlarge the hole a little bit in order to get the pins to slide through. So always be prepared as anything's possible when you're doing an install. So once you get them in, take your needle nose pliers, little lock ring here. Be careful when you grab it, it doesn't shoot across the room. And install it behind the pin. once you get in the hole, you can pretty much push them down and they'll snap in place. See, the pin spins freely. Everything's holding it in. Pads are in, ready to go in the car. Okay, so I installed my caliper. I had to put 3 shims on the back side in order to get the spacing pretty close. As you can see there, they're pretty even. Wilwood will supply you with these little shims, and they go between the caliper and the mounting bracket in order to shim the caliper left to right or inside to outside. And in my case, like I said, I needed 3 of them in order to get the spacing correctly, pretty close on the pads. For right now, I've just decided to mock this car up, put the brakes on it so I can get the wheels on it, get it on the ground, and then get the suspension set up. I'm actually going to remove all the stock suspension and then put in a set of adjustable coilovers. I will do some videos on that here in the future, but for right now, just putting the brakes on for mock-up purposes. But there you go, Wilwood 6 pistons. Thanks for watching.